Newsfeed, you're watching a live press conference today from Luthuli House. It is, of course, about the nominations process for the National Executive Committee. You saw the former president speaking as the chair of the ANC's Electoral Committee, reading out the names and discussing the names and the process of electing members of the NEC. But that's not the story today, is it? And that's probably not why you're watching today. We're all waiting to see what is going to happen with President Cyril Ramaphosa. You saw Phala Phala there, the national spokesperson of the ANC, trying not to answer questions about it. But it seems we may have a National Executive Committee meeting tonight virtually or tomorrow physically. Watching all of this with us, Lukhanyo Calata, our political editor. Lukhanyo, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Stephen.
If we have a physical meeting tomorrow, that may make for a better quality of meeting. It may also prolong the agony, and we still don't know what's going to happen.
Yes, but critically, it will allow us as journalists at least to be able to be there. Grab some of the NEC members as they walk in and out of whatever venue the African National Congress would choose to hold that NEC meeting in. Yes, you're right, but it does extend the agony for us, because instead of tomorrow getting a briefing from the African National Congress and them telling us as to what was discussed, what President Cyril Ramaphosa has told them or what he's informed them about his plans going forward, instead we'll, basically just be in limbo for a little bit longer.
You're going nowhere, I think you know that. Professor Oscar van Heerden is watching this. Dr Oscar van Heerden is the Deputy Vice-Chancellor at the University of Fort Hare. Dr van Heerden, good afternoon to you, and thanks for agreeing to watch this with us. No longer at Fort Hare, my apologies. Thank you for agreeing to watch this with us. So many elements to this story, so many different scenarios which could take place. At this stage, are you willing to make any predictions or suggest any scenarios are more likely than others?
Hi, Stephen, and of course, Lukhanyo. Well, look, it's a difficult one. It's a very serious matter. It's certainly the constitutional democracy is on full display. And what is the strength of that democracy is what people are looking at. This is a panel that was put together by Parliament, as you know, Stephen. I think that the Judge Ngobo himself has admitted that there are a number of loopholes, with regards to this report. He would have wanted more time. He would have wanted to engage with more evidence. He would have wanted to interrogate more witnesses, all of which did not necessarily happen. And so I think if I am to make a prediction, I think for those reasons, I would be very surprised if President Ramaphosa and his legal team is going to not challenge and put in an urgent application for review of the findings of the panel. That's from a legal point of view. Because you see, the president has to do it, as far as I'm concerned, because he also wants to clear his own name. Whether he continues being president of the Republic and being president of the ANC, that is another matter. You would recall, Stephen, this was a similar situation when with the Judge Nicholson judgment against Thabo Mbeki, where Thabo Mbeki, because he wanted to clear his name, regardless of the fact that he eventually decided to resign, took on the matter legally so that he could clear his name. So I think Ramaphosa, from a legal point of view, will certainly do that. Then, of course, there is the parliamentary issue. That will take its course. I think that you would know that if they decide to accept the report and to go for impeachment, that in itself is a process, not an event. That will have to follow certain processes and can take some time within the parliamentary process. And then finally, it's the political issue. And that is, as Lukhanyo says, that is now waiting for the NEC and the showdown there. I think there's no surprises. We know that there are factions or fractions in the ANC. Some want to pay for the blood of the president, of course. They want him to resign with immediate effect. And there are those that are going to say, no, we are closing ranks. We are going to protect the president. We will have to see which, may the better man win, as they say.
So you're right to point to the law, and I think legally you must be correct. I suspect that the President, to clear his own name, may well challenge this. The politics is so different to 2008, and I say that because in 2008, when Mbeki was recalled, there was a leader of the ANC with a clear mandate. His name, of course, was then future President Jacob Zuma. Interesting to watch Kgalema Motlanthe on the podium today. It's still in the middle of things, it would seem. So the question then is there anyone in the ANC with a clear mandate now? 2 weeks ahead of conference. If there isn't, will the conference end with a clear mandate for anyone?
Well, this is the big question. You know, we're 12 days away from the national conference. I think that is why this NEC is particularly peculiar, because in as much as the NEC of the ANC is indeed the highest decision-making between conferences, I'm sure somewhere in the back of their mind, they are also weary of the fact that if they take significant decisions these coming 24 hours, they might run the risk of being challenged by the highest decision-making structure in the ANC, which is the national conference, which might not agree with the type of decisions that they take over the next 24 hours.
Lukhanyo Calata, we've never seen this before, where you have an NEC meeting that could be vitally important, that could then be overridden by a conference just a few days later. And on top of that, branches aren't going to have time to meet again, so delegates are going, I would imagine, without a clear mandate from their branches.
Yeah, Stephen, it's very fascinating because I think for us, as political journalists, you know, we're alive because with all of the possibilities and all of the permutations. But I think Dr. van Heerden is right in that the NEC and what it decides to do over the next 24 to 48 hours is definitely going to come under scrutiny come elective period or elective conference period. So the delicate balance that they need to strike over the next few days, because obviously you don't want to, upset delegates that are coming with a particular mandate who might just say, well, you know what, I didn't like what happened earlier this month or a few weeks ago, and then I'm going to go with this. So it's a delicate balance. I'm not sure how obviously it's going to play out, but I think for us over the next, it could happen tonight, it could happen tomorrow, but over the next 24 to 48 hours, we're going to learn quite a lot about the ANC and its support or lack thereof for the incumbent.
Dr. van Heerden, there are so many other issues here. I mean, it's obvious the findings of the Phala Phala panel last night, the finding that the President may be guilty of a serious violation of the law and the Constitution, obviously personally damaging to him, to his legacy, to his reform agenda, to everything, right? Maybe not to his bank balance, I suppose. But what about the ANC? If you look at all of this, put it all together for me, is this bad for the ANC too? And if so, how bad?
Look, I mean, from the face of it, it is bad for the ANC. No organization would want to have a leader that is being questioned in this particular manner. It is a serious finding in terms of that he may have transgressed the Constitution, the very Constitution that he is supposed to uphold and defend. And so personally, as well as for the ANC, this is bad. There's no other way of looking at it. However, the ANC also is a political organization. It is the majority party within parliament and within government. And so they also have to consider political considerations. Is it in our interest as the ANC to get rid of our leader at this particular point in time? Some might argue, Stephen, that this has nothing to do with guilt or innocence. It has nothing to do with ethics. It has everything to do with politics. I'm not necessarily saying I agree with that view, but at the end of the day, the ANC will have to make a decision and a call that could very well stand them in good stead or not in 2024 when the electorate come out in their masses to vote or not for the ANC.
Lukhanyo, one of the things that was interesting about Ramaphosa as ANC leader is that he was more popular than the party. First leader of the ANC to be more popular than the party since Nelson Mandela, Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma were both less popular than the party. That's obviously changed now, right? That makes him less powerful. This is one of the important things. The electability of Ramaphosa has disappeared.
Well, we don't know that yet.
You're always more sober than I am.
No, but it's true. We don't know that yet. I think taking all of the emotions out of it, this is the start of a process for the president. As Dr. Van Heerden has pointed out, there are legal avenues for him to pursue. And we don't know how the courts will, decide should the president go down that route. Maybe at some point, the president, maybe tonight, whenever he does speak to us, he might decide to just take us into his confidence and tell South Africans something that he hadn't shared with us up until this point, which could potentially change people's minds, change people's hearts about him. So the opportunities and they're all still available. For the ANC, however, I think, as Dr. Van Heerden points out, it's a moment for them to reflect as to, do they rally around their leader at the moment, or do they, let him go? Remember, the Constitutional Court at one point said about Nkandla how the National Assembly had actually failed in its duties to hold the executive accountable. So now they find themselves at exactly that same spot. Are they going to act in a manner on next week, Tuesday, when they debate, to hold the head of the executive accountable, or are we once again facing a situation where the National Assembly could, once again be wrapped over the knuckles for failing to hold the executive to account?
Dr. Van Heerden, it seems to me that this question really of the next 24 hours is not about Parliament, not about the law. It's about whether or not President Cyril Ramaphosa will voluntarily resign. Do you think he makes that decision alone, or do you think people in the ANC will be a part of that decision?
Unfortunately, it's not his decision. I think that people around him will quickly remind him of the fact that this is actually not about Cyril Ramaphosa. This is about the presidency of the country, and this is about the presidency of the ANC, and those offices are much bigger than the individual. And so there are significant implications, both in government as well as in the ANC, if Cyril Ramaphosa decides he's going to resign. I would imagine, Stephen, that he approached his inner circle and some of the alliance partners possibly, and said to them that he wants to resign. I would imagine that is what he would have said to them post the indication of the report, the panel's report. But unfortunately, I suspect that people around him are going to say that that is not actually your decision. We will have to see how we manage this thing. And in the absence of being able to manage it, that is when they will say, you would recall, Stephen, it's the same in 2008. I agree with you, different circumstances. But ultimately, Thabo Mbeki decided to resign after the NEC of the ANC, after the leadership deliberated on the matter and took a particular decision. That is when he decided to throw in the towel. I suspect in this case, Cyril Ramaphosa is going to do the same.
Dr. Oscar van Heerden, really appreciate your thoughts. Thank you very much indeed. So much to look at. In a moment, our political editor, Lukhanyo Calata, will stay with us. We'll be live to our reporter, Erin Bates. She's live for you at Luthuli House. Developments around that NEC meeting, I understand. More analysis from Dr. Fikile Vilakazi as well. Don't go away. We do expect developments on the story around Phala Phala and our president this afternoon.